rainy Thursday evening. Let's stand and say the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Make a motion, a motion that we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye.
I would like to say that Saturday before last, we had our first Earth Day celebration at the park here, and it was a really wonderful time. It was a little windy and cold, but everybody here had a really good time. And I would like to do a shout out for Tristan and Steve off the Parks Committee. They worked with me up the crafts table, and they did a phenomenal job with the children and the adults that came by, and we really enjoyed it. And also, I was going to ask Matt, did you hear anything about the House Bill 765?
If I may ask just a little more clarification regarding 765.
They had mentioned it at the LGCCA meeting about getting different municipalities to go in with them. Did they ever draft something up and send to us?
There's nothing that I have seen regarding that draft yet.
Okay.
Anybody got that also?
I had the opportunity yesterday, the Secretary of Transportation for the state in town, to thank the local DOT folks for the hard work they've done and the contractors that helped out a little bit. So I had the opportunity to chat with him, and I took the liberty on behalf of the town to thank him for what the DOT has done for us. And he seemed very appreciative of that.
I want to bring up one thing, just for our staff. I went to Pierce County today to get a permit, and they changed the way they do it. We've been carrying hard plans in there for decades now, for plan review. And I go in there today with the same scenario. They won't set my plan. Got to be uploaded, PDF, the only way they'll take it. Went through this with Monk County. But just keep in mind for the department heads, Matt, whoever, as you make these changes, and they couldn't exactly tell me who made the change, but as you make these changes, think about how it affects people. We're set in our ways. I'm old. They're telling me to upload some PDF. I'm a nail binder. I ain't a computer geek. So I need, I had to go find somebody to help. Well, I'm just saying, as far as Mills River goes, make sure y'all keep doing what you're doing. Take care of our people. Be, appreciative of them when they come in the door, because they are our taxpayers, and they're the ones that keep this ball rolling. A lot of this stuff we're having to do is burdens that we put on them, since 04, 06. So just keep that in mind. I appreciate every one of you for doing what you do, because I don't hear any of these horror stories like I had to go through today. Thank you. Manager updates.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a few updates for you all and for the people here in the audience today. The first and foremost, I want to give a quick update about FEMA updates and where we're at with that. And so as it's getting warmer, obviously, we're going to have more and more people coming to the park, and there's more and more interest about where we're at with repairs to the park. And so last week, April 17th, I believe it was, the actual date, a week from today, we were officially able to submit all of our damages that have been defined within the town. And so, which are quite substantial when you think about every culvert that's here, every bench that may have been damaged, et cetera. So we've finalized that process now. And so we've been working with our engineering firm to help us now go through that next step. And that next step is really understanding how we're going to go through what's called the method of repair. for these items. And so we're going to be finalizing that, getting a report within the next, hopefully within the next week or so. We're going to go through that, make sure that we agree with that. And again, we're going to be sharing that information with council as well and being open with where we're at within that process. And then at that stage is really when we're going to be able to then push through some of these projects into the actual scoping phase and to actually where you're going to be actually being able to see the work on the ground. And so I don't have timelines. I think it would be bad for me to provide timelines because, you never know when you're dealing with so many other entities and federal government, et cetera. Sometimes things may be delayed, but my hope is sooner rather than later, we're going to start seeing that actual dirt being moved, repairs being made here. It's been a long process. Staff has been working incredibly diligently week in and week out to make sure we're at the stage that we're at now to get that open. So I know that there's a lot of interest in it. I will tell you, we are just as excited as anyone else to get those sections open in the back. They are still closed off. They are closed off for safety reasons. And so I cannot stress that enough. They're not closed off just because we want them to be. We want to really make sure that we're protecting those people who come to enjoy our park each and every day. And so I'm excited. I'll be able to provide more details again as we get into the timeline of those project scopes. And I'll be bringing that to council at a future council meeting so we can really start talking through that. The other thing I was going to mention is because we're finally at that stage, we're putting together a communication strategy for making sure, again, not just here where I can make these announcements or not just through our social media pages, but also through our website, et cetera, because we know our residents care about that progress. And so we're going to be building that up now as well. So you can check in the coming weeks where we're at, where we're going, and hopefully where we're going to be getting to soon rather than later. So I'm excited about that work as well. As you may have noticed when you came in, the accessible parks project is continuing to move forward. And so you can actually, what's really fun about these kinds of projects, you can see, every time you come in, there's another piece that's been added, or as you can see what the gazebo area is, where the poles are up now. We are still pretty much right on schedule for where we're supposed to be at. The rain obviously has dampened the speed on some of the installation a little bit more, but we are still looking at that, mid-May type timeline, at least the last that I've heard. Now, again, the rain may have slowed it down a little bit, but sooner rather than later, again, we're going to have that opened up, and we're very excited about that. The Mills River Day is coming up. As a reminder, on May 3rd is from 11 to 5. Again, more information is on our website. I'm very excited. It's my first Mills River Day. I'm excited to go out there and see it myself. I've heard great things. I think literally the first meeting that I had here as town manager was talking about Mills River Day. So I'm excited to see it actually come to fruition this year. And so I invite everybody to come out and enjoy that day as well as from 11 to 5. And then one other update, some people, council, you all may have seen this, and our residents may have seen this as well. There have been a couple of news articles about health insurance and town employees. I know I've shared this, I think, at the last couple of council meetings as well, but I believe it may have been Canton or one of those that was highlighted where residents were, where staff were looking at new insurances and what that may mean for the staff there. The town of Mills River is one of those that's also going through a review of our health insurance as well, not our medical, but our ancillary insurances. And so I'm in the final stages of my due diligence work on identifying potential comparable options. And so my hope is that the first meeting in May, but definitely by the second meeting in May, we're going to have an updated contract for you all as well to consider for the town staff as well. So luckily not as big of a burden on our shoulders because our medical is still being covered. But the other items, you all will be seeing those at a very soon meeting for consideration. So just wanted to provide that. Then that concludes my remarks.
Public comment? Do we have anybody signed up for public comment? You're not? Patty had one that emailed one in, correct? And we'll just note that it's in the record. It looks like they're in support of the farmers market. Okay, moving right along. Consent agenda. Looking for a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Brian. Second.
Second.
All right, James, any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none.
Okay, moving right along to our regular agenda, the Mills River Fire Department presentation.
Council, government, interparty, fire departments. I want to be here tonight to give council a high-level overview of our revenue budget for this coming fiscal year. Also not
It comes with the gray hair, I think, Scott.
Stepping in the back and drive where.
Thank you, Mitch. All right. So, want to share with y'all our budget priorities as we developing our budget for next fiscal year. So those priorities, one is to maintain our 10-cent tax rate. So we've had that for several years, and that was one of our priorities, to maintain that same tax rate, and then also lower debt and maintain our fund balance savings. That's part of our. Another important budget priority for our fire department is recruitment and retention for both our volunteers and our paid personnel. Fire service increasingly is becoming competitive. There's a lot more opportunities for firefighters to be either adding firefighters as West North Carolina grows, and so that puts a strain on recruitment and retention. So we want to use this budget to focus heavily on that. And also our station staffing. So we had a rating last summer. So our insurance rating about the state of North Carolina, one of the voids that was identified was our station staff. So we are blessed at Millville Fire Department. We have a lot of volunteers. We have a really good response for our department. As far as that initial first in response, that's where they identified. We also had an outside group come in and help our department do a strategic plan program. And one of the things they also identified was our station staff needed some improvement. So we wanted to have that as a priority in our budget as well. Emergency preparedness, clean, obviously, prioritized for everyone. The importance of emergency preparedness, Mr. McCarrion and I have, even during the hurricane response, we're talking about making sure that we focus on emergency preparedness. So just a quick snapshot at the revenue of Mills River Fire Department. So last year, a little over $3 million. And majority of that obviously comes from our contract with the town. And so that change of roughly 44,000 is just what Henderson County Finance Department has given us an estimate as to what that tax rate will produce, is around that $2.8 million. So pretty similar to what we had last year with the town of Mills River. We get also some money for the areas that we cover outside of the town from the county. It's about $75,000 in fundraising. We had a state grant last year for $130,000, and we finished that grant. And so that's really the difference in our revenue this year. You see that we'll have about $55,000 less, and that grant is that difference with the small amount of growth that we've had in property and sales tax. It's a net of about $55,000 less, but pretty much we're looking at the same amount of a revenue as we had last year. Next slide. So our savings, because of the fire station that burned, we have our savings has been assigned to replacing the fire truck that we lost, and then also the station. We're getting insurance money for that, which is great. But we believe that we know that a new fire engine will cost more than what we had it insured for, and also the building as well. And so the assigned money for that truck and that building fund is above and beyond what we'll get for insurance. And so that's $2.5 million that is sitting in CDs, drawing interest until we have to use those for replacement of that fire truck and replacement of that fire station too. That leaves us with a little over $1 million in our savings for a fund balance for emergencies. So we want to beef that up a little bit. And so we're wanting with this budget to add $375,000 to that, so that our savings is where it needs to be. Next slide. So our expenditures match our revenues. And so that's that same just under $3 million. I think it's also important just to highlight that we plan to, with the town and with the conversations that Mr. McCarran and I have had since Hurricane Helene, is to make sure that our emergency operations and our continuity of operations plans are coordinated. And so we wanted to make sure that we have money budgeted to make sure those plans are coordinated with the town. So, next slide. So going back to our priorities and what we are doing, we've got the same revenue roughly as last year. And so we're not increasing our budget, but we are going to do is just reprioritizing some to make sure that those priorities that I went over in the very beginning are addressed. And so that recruitment and retention piece with volunteer participation, so important for our community. And it's so strong right now. We want to keep that strong. We want to enhance the incentives that our volunteers get. Obviously, our volunteers aren't paid. They do receive a reimbursement for their fuel and the calls they go throughout the year. But one thing that we're wanting to add is some unique training opportunities for our volunteers. A lot of our volunteers are career firefighters at other departments. And so having those unique training opportunities that our fire department can provide, if they when on their days off from the department that they're working at, if they come and volunteer with us, we're going to provide them some unique training opportunities, some equipment that they might not be able to get at their career department. And so that's one strategy that we're hoping to do. And so we're wanting to put some funds into that recruitment and retention. Another piece of that recruitment and retention that we are focusing on is putting some funds into making sure that our full-time firefighters are at that market rate, that they're competitive. And so that's a moving target, as y'all well know. And so there you go, forward back. Awesome. Thank you. All right. And so as that compensation becomes more competitive in West North Carolina, we want to make sure that we're competitive with the other fire departments in West North Carolina. So we're wanting to put some of our budget prioritizing that into compensation for our full-time employees to make sure that they're competitive and at market. Another thing that we are looking at doing with this budget year is moving our firefighters to a 40-hour work week. And so I think that's pretty common for everybody. The Fair Labor Standards Act says after 40 hours, you have to pay employees that aren't exempt from overtime time and a half. I think that's what most people are used to, is a 40-hour work week. Most people work more than 40 hours. I think that's pretty standard in all industries, but typically the schedule is 40 hours and then you're compensated for an hour and a half. Firefighters are different in that they're scheduled 56 hours in a week. And so there's a growing conversation in the fire service to move firefighters to a 40-hour work week. Obviously that requires more people, it will require an extra shift, but that's one thing that we're hoping to focus on. And that would be huge for recruitment and retention. It's a growing conversation in the fire service. More and more fire departments are moving to that 40-hour work week. And so that's one of the recruitment and retention strategies we want to use this budget with. So, back in advance now. So staffing, I mentioned the void that was identified with both our insurance rating and then also with our strategic plan from outside consultants that were helping us. We need 2 more firefighters on duty. Right now, we always have 24 hours a day. So nights and weekends, we during Monday through Friday, we have 4 there, but nights and weekends, we only have 2. And this is our paid firefighters, the ones that are there. And the volunteers come from their homes, they come from their jobs. And so that very first arriving initial critical actions is where that void is. And so to address that, we're hoping to add 2. And what we want to do is add 1 volunteer per shift. And so instead of that volunteer coming from their home right now, incentivize them like we had that I just talked about, incentivize them to stay at the station. And so that's obviously the younger firefighters, the ones that don't have as many family commitments as our firefighters later in their life have. And so incentivizing them to pull a shift, stay at the fire station. And that's how we hope to get 1. And then also adding 1 paid firefighter per shift. And so that would get us our 4. So that would nights and weekends, we'd always have 4 at the fire station, ready to respond and can be at anybody's home in just a few minutes. And of course, the volunteers will still come from their homes and still a very important component of our response model is using our volunteers. So that won't go away by any means. This will just be an enhancement of that first arriving apparatus, the first ones on the scene. So in summary, we want to maintain our 10-cent tax rate. We don't want to increase that. We want to lower debt. We want to maintain our savings, our fund balance, but we want to focus on recruitment and retention, which would be volunteer incentives and also moving our folks to a 40-hour work week, and then making sure we're compensating our employees at market, and then also increase our station staffing, utilizing 1 more volunteer and 1 more paid personnel per shift. And then also that emergency preparedness planning, which is everybody in Western North Carolina's focus right now for a very good reason. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions from council.
Questions? Got any? I just think it's important that the taxpayers of Mills River understand that 10 cents basically is a pass-through. It's, is it still, set by the county
Yes, sir.
commissioners?
Yes, sir. So the next steps will on May the 2nd, I'll do a presentation to the Fire and Rescue Advisory Committee, which is a committee established by the county commissioners,
Okay.
and get feedback from them. And I'd like to share it with them that I made this presentation to town council and give them any input or feedback that y'all may have. And then the Fire and Rescue Advisory Committee ultimately recommends to the county commissioners what that tax rate should be. And then the county commissioners, as part of their budget process, they adopt that tax rate. And then, as you stated, Mayor, as part of our contract, it's a pass-through.
Pass-through. Okay. One other question I got, that losing that truck, losing the building, did it sacrifice our insurance score at all, or was y'all able to maintain it?
Fortunately, we were able to maintain it.
Okay,
And so if by the next time that we're rated, if we don't have that replaced, it will
Okay.
significantly. That was after I made sure everybody was okay. The next phone call was to the Office of State Fire Marshal to ask that very question, was, how is this going to affect our insurance rating? And fortunately, said it does not until the next time
Okay.
that you are rated. And they had experience with that, unfortunately, with Helene, as a lot of, as close as Etowah, there was a lot of damage to fire stations, as y'all know. And so fortunately, they were giving everybody some grace.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
How
Any other?
often do you get rated?
Every 5 years. Yep. And we were rated this past summer, so 2030 or 2029.
I know y'all do a couple of fundraisers. You actually have one coming up pretty soon, the flower sale.
Ma'am,
When is that gonna be?
that is May the 10th.
May the
Correct.
10th?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay.
thanks for bringing that up, because it's important. Not only because it helps with that 75,000 our revenue. That's not the only fundraiser, obviously, but that's a big part of it. But it's also a wonderful community event, and so great to see everybody and bring our community together. So thanks for bringing that. So.
Is there any other fundraisers you do through the year?
There is. So the one that gains our most is our portrait fundraiser. And so that's a letter campaign. And so every property owner within the town of Mills River receives a letter from the fire chief. And it says just an update on the fire department, what it does, and asks for a $25 donation. And the company that we use, they do not charge the fire department. All of those donations, 100% go to the fire department. So when they get that, if they give the $25, then that comes straight to the fire department. How they make their money, that company, is they offer portraits. And so come to the firehouse, get your picture made. It's totally voluntary for the person that's donating it. That's how they get their money. But 100% of that money that's donated, it comes straight to the fire department for our operations. But those are our two big fundraisers. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and that'll be in the fall.
Chief, could I get you to say something again, repeat it? A lot of your staff, your volunteers, are paid firefighters at other places.
That's correct.
So they come home and then they volunteer be on the Mills River Fire Department.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's a common model, not only in West North Carolina, but everywhere. And it works great in that, we have firefighters that work full time at Asheville. We have firefighters that work full time at Fletcher, at Etowah. And so, the training and experience that they receive in these departments, benefits our community
You see
significantly.
it all.
Avoid of that, and we saw it during Hurricane Helene, because that is such a common model. Everybody was recalled to work, including our firefighters in Mills River. And so we didn't have as many of those folks that we rely on every day under normal conditions that were available. But independent of that, it's a really good relationship. It helps significantly when we have automatic aid, mutual aid calls, because we all know each other and we work together. And so, but yeah, that is a number of our folks.
It just impressed the heck out of me when I was in Asheville working with you there and was talking to your professionals there, and they're like, yeah, I volunteer. And
Yeah.
I'm a traffic engineer. When I'm done with that for the day, I don't sit around waiting for the call at midnight to write a traffic study. You do it because you love it, and it shows.
Yeah.
And you just can't see how much we
Sure.
appreciate
Yeah. I'm very proud of our volunteers that do that, and very grateful too.
Are the volunteers at the fire department Mills River residents?
So the majority are. There are some that that do not live in Mills River, and so they'll get their volunteer time exactly how I said earlier. They'll come to the station, they'll pull a shift, and but the majority are Mills River residents. Yeah.
So you must have something going for people wanting to travel to volunteer.
I think so. Our folks have created a really good culture there, and it shows. So the conversations in the fire service are about the volunteerism declining, and we're not seeing that in Mills River. In the last 6 months, we've added 8 new volunteer firefighters, and so and it's because of our folks that are there, and the culture they've created, and the welcoming feeling that they give folks when they come to volunteer. So.
Cool. Excellent.
And I'd like to thank you guys as a department you very easily could have came in here and said, we need 2 more paid guys and we're going to increase our tax rate. But you guys chose to think outside the box and create new avenues.
Yeah.
And I think the community appreciates that, and stands well for your department.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I think that was important to us. It was important to our board, especially after Hurricane Helene, that that we can do everything that we can to not have any more fiscal impact to our community. So
Thank you.
Yes, appreciate that.
yes,
Yep,
absolutely.
very much so.
Yep.
Anything else for Scott?
Thank you for all you do.
Appreciate the
Thank you.
presentation.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir. We're moving on to our nonprofit support requests. Mr. McCary Hannell, lead us in that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So, annually, over the last few years, there's been I think since actually 2007, when we created the nonprofit policy here, Council has opened the opportunity for nonprofits to request certain funds for nonprofit work and endeavors, specifically that dedicated to helping benefit town of Mills River residents. And so this year, we have updated our policy, and then also updated our application itself to focus a little bit more on some of those requirements around specific areas around operating and capital funds, as well as with the usage of those. And so those this year we put it out similar to years in the past, and pushed out via press release, as well as to those that have worked in the past. We received 4. We received 5. There are 4 before you today. 4 organizations are going to come before you today to discuss their requests. There's a total of $58,350 worth of requests. Now, as a reminder, Council, I believe at the last couple of meetings, gave staff direction that you all would like to focus on using ABC tax funds for this effort now and moving forward. So the current projected tax revenue from ABC sales this year, we budgeted in the FY25 budget to be $30,500, I believe. And I can confirm that here in a second. We have not finalized the actual numbers, because we don't get those actual numbers till later on in this fiscal year. It's actually going to be coming in the next month or so. but that's where the projection is. Now, again, moving forward, we'll have some actuals and we'll be able to set those aside into that fund for future years. But that's just to give you that reminder. Now, again, this is the requests that are coming before you are also I'll say it this way: as a nonprofit, come up and talk. This is your ability as council with the fiduciary responsibility on how you would like to fund these moving forward. So we have reviewed them, staff have reviewed them. The ones that are before you do meet the minimum criteria as set out within the applications. And we can go for it. I'm happy to answer any other questions as they come up during these presentations.
Okay.
The first one that I believe that we have, and Patty, you may have it in front of you right now, are our friends over at the Mills River Life Enrichment Center.
Good evening. I'm Ruth Williams. I'm here to represent the Mills River Life and Enrichment Center. We are a senior adult outreach program for those who are aging in their homes. We are there to help promote healthy aging, pardon me, and to help them with, we have plenty of resources that we can offer to help them do healthy aging, but mainly we're there to get them out of their home, connect them with other people, and help them get rid of the loneliness that comes from aging at home alone. And we've been operating this is our 18th year, which is hard to believe. And I guess you have my application in front of you, but we are coming to you to ask that we would help us do our weekly meals. The meals and everything that we offer are at no cost to the seniors. And so that's where you come in. We ask for your help. I'm going to give each one of you a 12-month report of our food cost, where it varies, and it also has our attendance. You're welcome. We did not meet as many weeks as we normally do last year, and I think you all know why, because of Helene. The facility where we meet was used as a disaster relief center for several weeks. So, but other than that, everything went as it has in the past. Our request tonight is for $12,000 to help with our food costs, which annually is about $20,000 a year. Like I said, last year was a little lower because of not being able to meet. Do you have any questions?
Attendance been staying status quo?
Other than today it was just, I don't know if it was the weather, but yeah, we're averaging about 80 a week.
Okay.
And it's, and then unfortunately each year we lose some,
Sure.
but then we gain some too.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, Ruth, we thank you.
Well, I thank you, and I thank you for your always supporting us.
I thank you. I know Becky Moore, my mother, loved Merlin. That was the highlight of her week.
Thursday was her happy day. That's what she used to tell us all the time. That was her happy day. We miss her. We've still got lots of pictures of her down there. Thank you.
I run into a lot of people that come to Merlac and they always mention what a wonderful time they have there and how much they appreciate all you do for them.
Well, thank you, but it's not just, I am one of a few. I have a staff of 20 volunteers, and without them, it would never happen. And
Yeah.
they're priceless.
And I will say that when I stepped up the plate needing food for staff, I went straight to Ruth first stop to see what she could do to help us out. And she says, Shannon, if it ain't went bad, I've got some stuff in the neighbor's freezer that was going Thursday that's frozen. If we got a way to warm it up, and I said, well, we got the generator down there. Somebody might have to fire up an oven or something down there. Pulled that off. Couple days worth. It would have went. It did. Thank you again for that. All right, moving on.
Next up are our friends over at Mills River Farm Market. Their amount requested is $18,350 to provide programs in health education, SNAP, EBT for our low-income community members.
Well, hello, folks. I'm Linda Britton with the Mills River Farm Market. And we definitely want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight and make our request. We also were 18 years old. That seems to be the magic number, I think, here. The Mills River Farm Market is a nonprofit 501c3 that provides a quality venue for local producers offering fresh produce, foods, plants, and crafts to Mills River and the surrounding communities while supporting educational outreach and promoting healthy living. And just a brief history, because some of you may not be as familiar. Some of you have heard this speech many times, but the market was begun by the town of Mills River and the Ag Advisory Committee back in 2009, when the town hall was over at the Mills River Commons Plaza, and G&B Energy gave us permission to use the parking lot there for the market. And we were there for a number of years until we outgrew that space, and we ended up moving to the Mills River Elementary School parking lot, where we still reside. In 2014, we started offering SNAP benefits to customers. And so that changed the dynamics of the market greatly, from being just a place for vendors to come and sell their product to more of a community-minded destination and a community-minded organization, not just so much for farmers to sell, but to really do something for the community. We began our kids zone activities after that, where we have a coordinator who is here this evening, who prepares the lessons for the children and teaches them each week. We started that shortly after the SNAP benefits. We have a demonstration kitchen on site and a demonstration kitchen coordinator who plans a recipe each week that features fresh local products. But not only is she sharing a recipe, her guiding light is to teach people food safety, food preparation techniques. We have a lot of people that come to market that really don't know how to cook. And so she offers some techniques, like chopping and cooking and braising and steaming and what are all these things. So she's teaching a lot to people as well. We also participate in a produce prescription program where people are basically prescribed by their doctor to eat fresh fruit and vegetables, and they come to market with a prescription, and they receive $20, $40, or $60 worth of produce each week while they're there. And we also participate in the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, which offers a small benefit to seniors during the summer that they can redeem from July through September. So we do a lot with regards to nutrition for folks that are particularly in need. We also have a Young Entrepreneurs Program, which is not necessarily anything that helps with regards to food or health or whatever, but it is introducing this concept to our youth. Because if I saw a poster at Cooperative Extension this week, and they were talking about the average age of farmers is like 58 years old, 59 years old. So if we're not starting to plant this seed in young people, we're really going to have a void in the future. And this year I've got 16 kids that are enrolled in the Young Entrepreneur Program on various levels of support. We've got 3 different levels in that program. So that's our main programming there. We also have special days at market that are fun, but they're also educational. We have pollinator days. We have squash-a-rama. Everybody has tomato week, but nobody celebrates the lowly squash. So we do. This year, we're going to implement a senior day where we are going to have different providers that have services that would be applicable to seniors in our community to see where they could get resources that they might need. Our specific funding request is to help with the cost of the kids zone, the kitchen, and the operating of our SNAP. Now, we know our SNAP dollars are coming from a different pot. We're not talking about that. but we're talking about the administration of the program, which is about half of the time that our market manager puts in on the job. About half of it is with regards to SNAP distribution and reimbursements and keeping up with paperwork and all that. You do have 2024 in review, where you see some of the numbers and the impact that we do have in our community. And I think that's eye-opening. We had over 10,000 shoppers last year. Do I have to change that, or is that? Do I do this, or do you do that?
Which slide do you want to do?
The second one that I have. There, the first one then that I had. There we go. Thank you so much. You can see that we had about 10,000 shoppers come through the market. Over 1,000 people stopped by the demonstration kitchen to see what was happening there. And that's a picture of Kelly Brown, who's our current coordinator, and some of the things that she was working on that day. We had over 700 kids going through the kids zone. That's a big, big feather in our cap, I feel like. We had 26 markets regularly May through October. Of course, we were closed one weekend because of Hurricane Helene. We had over $28,000 worth of credit cards used with the market information booth. We're not talking about credit cards with individual vendors. This is just what runs through the booth. If you've shopped there and have used the token system, you understand that that's what that was for, was purchasing tokens. $13,000 worth of SNAP food going out. That was after doubling. So it was, between 6,000 and 7,000 coming off of individuals' cards. Getting data from our vendors sometimes can be difficult on how much money they're bringing in, but given what information we were able to get this year, we had almost $250,000 going through that farmers market, 240,000. That is amazing, the impact that we are having on the farmers in our area. And as I said in a former meeting here, our farmers are not big guys. These are small producers. Again, that poster that I saw at Cooperative Extension said the average size of a farm in Henderson County or in North Carolina, was like 90 acres. Not our guys. It's maybe 5 acres. That would be a big one. And a lot of them are greatly smaller than that. So that's a lot of economic impact. We had 54 vendors enrolled with us last year. We averaged 29 a week. We had 10 young entrepreneurs last year, but like I said, we've got 16 this year. And everybody that sells at the market comes from within a 50-mile radius of the town. And we do have social following, as you can see there too. So our total budget for the year is a little over $27,000. About $4,600 goes toward operating expenses. We're not asking you for any assistance with that, but our programming costs us $22,560 a year. That's what our budget has down for that. That is running the kids zone, running the demonstration kitchen, and our market manager when she's got a good 50% of her time devoted to the SNAP program. So we are requesting $18,350, and I know that your pot is not limitless. So we encourage you to use good judgment about our impact to the community and the way we want to keep going in our community. I know that we now have a North Carolina Farmers Market Network, and several of us have attended meetings with them, or we attend them weekly or monthly on Zoom, as well as we had a statewide meeting a few weeks ago. Our market is known across the state because when we go and we wear these shirts and people come up and say, Mills River Farmers Market, I've heard of y'all. You're doing this, you're doing that. So what's happening here is a good thing, and we are having an impact that's being felt across the state. So we appreciate any and everything that you can do to help us out. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Questions? Comments?
No, thank y'all for all you do. I know through the kids, they are teaching children about plants, insects, and how to take care of a garden. And I know usually y'all give them something to actually plant and they can grow it at home.
Mhm. Yeah, we try to make sure they have something in their hands with them when they leave every.
And as adults, the vendors that come, some of them bring plants and stuff to sell that are unique. I know, I actually purchased logs inoculated with shiitake mushroom spores last year, and I picked my first shiitake mushroom of the year last week. So I was so excited. This is early, but I appreciate all y'all do, and the food they serve in the demo kitchen is unique. Um, it's fresh and it's from the local food that is grown around here, and it actually gives you a different variety to make and try different ways to fix things. And the Double Snap program is an amazing program for putting food in the cupboards of families that need it, but also it puts money straight in the farmer's pocket and cuts out the middleman.
If I
And
can say something at this point too about this, I'm not sure that you folks know this, but there are other agencies that give money for Double Snap, but theirs is earmarked only for fruits and vegetables. Our money from you is the only one, and everybody around us is so jealous because we will double any SNAP eligible purchase, whether it's cheese or bread or meat or plants that grow vegetables. All of those are eligible. And we're the only farmers market around here that does that. So that's very important.
Oh, yeah.
And they were also instrumental in helping Fletcher start their very own first farmers market. So
Anything else?
I have a quick clarifying question if I may.
Yeah.
So I was just looking over the budget here and I just want to confirm, you had mentioned that the market manager's time is a good 50% or so being used for those programs. The total budget that you provided is, and I thank you so much for providing this, by the way, is the total budget is showing 27,185. That's including the market manager 10,620. Is that are there other operating funds from her position that are in operating that are not being shown here, or is that the full amount of the funds there, even though, as you mentioned, about half of her time is being spent on that?
I think it's the full amount that we put there because it just varies from week to week depending on what has happened as to how much time goes into it.
Understood. I just wanted to make sure that when I was doing my math that I was
Right.
calculating appropriately. Thank you.
It covers all of it. Thank you.
Well, I want to say something before you leave. I'd like to thank you for what you do. And, Laura and I love going to the farm market. That's our Saturday morning. And now I understand that you're starting on first Saturday in May.
May 3rd.
So you go by the farm market and then to Mills River Day.
Exactly, because we
It's a
open at
great
8 o'clock,
combination.
they open at 11, so
So-
you've got no conflict there.
Sounds good. We look forward to seeing y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next applicant is are our friends over from the Housing Assistance Corporation, coming in requesting $10,000 associated with the work that they do with low income households in Mills River.
Good evening. My name is Noelle McKay. This is David.
I'm
Stoneman.
David Stoneman.
And we're both with Housing Assistance Corporation. Housing Assistance Corporation, we're an organization that started in 1988. So we've been around for a little while. Originally, we started as a church volunteer group, actually out of Trinity Presbyterian Church, which we actually happened to grow up in Trinity, but we just happened to, yeah. It's a small world. But we started as a home repair group, and then they formed a nonprofit in 1988. We do other things like single family housing development and construction, but home repair is our longest running program. So we've been doing it for years. We serve folks whose income is 80% of AMI or less, so the area median income. So you need to be income eligible. Although I will say that really, even though it's 80%, we find that most of our people, about 80% of them are 50% of AMI or less.
30.
Yeah,
30.
yeah. And that's around, I think, like 38,000 for a 2-person household. So making less than that, and most of them are making even a little bit less. The repairs that we do a wide range of repairs. You know, plumbing, electrical, roofs, septic systems, wells, accessibility ramps.
Pretty much any health or safety repair.
Okay.
We don't do cosmetic repairs. We're not the people to call if you're tired of the color of your living room wall.
No,
We
that's
don't do that.
correct. That's correct. Our program benefits, a large portion of the people that we serve tend to be elderly senior citizens. They oftentimes meet the income requirements, and many times they, you know, have lived in their homes a long time. And as the years have gone by, their houses have aged and maybe their incomes have decreased. And so they're now in need for those repairs. So this program does help a lot of people be able to age in place and to do so safely. One of the things that we found many years ago was that we would go in and repair a roof, but if there was still like trip hazards and little inconsistencies in the home, if our client fell, then they would end up, you know, needing hospitalization or other services. And so when we go into the homes, we also try to look for hazards like that while we're in there, just like little simple things that we do. It's also a great way to kind of preserve some of the older housing in your community, folks that have been around. So there's that housing preservation piece, as well as people being served. And it's part of the tax base, maybe an older part, but still a valuable piece. On the slide that we have, if you're able to scroll up a little bit, we thought that maybe some of the easiest ways to describe what we do is through photographs. And so we do have a couple of photos, and I'll talk about the first one, and I'm going to let David talk about the second, because that was your baby. The first set of before and after pictures, these are both homes in the Mills River community that we worked on. The first one actually is a mother-son home, and it was damaged in the hurricane that came through, and a tree fell on it. And there was quite a bit of roof damage, and ceiling, flooring, and subflooring, because of course, you know, once it's open to the elements, it's not just the roof anymore, it becomes everything. But FEMA and their insurance claim was able to complete the roof repair. There wasn't enough money for all the ceiling and the subflooring. And so we came in and we were able to complete the repairs to the ceilings and the subflooring of the house. And I'll let you talk about the elderly gentleman.
All right.
Mhm.
The one on the right that you see is a home that was obviously, you can tell, a victim of extreme deferred maintenance. And we see a lot of that. There had been no running water in the house for about 5 years. The well was fine, but the pump was out. No hot water because the house was served with a really small fuse box. And the client said, well, if I have hot water, I got to unscrew all these other fuses to make it work. So I'll just do without it. And we were able to go in and replace the service. That is the top left picture there is actually the kitchen floor once we tore it out. And as you can see on the right, that was the new kitchen. We had some cabinets donated, some time donated by some plumbers who gave their time. They didn't have to. We would have happily paid them. They wanted to be involved and do that. And that's what we do, our health and safety repairs. And as I tell staff that works with me, when we go meet somebody, we tell them, we want you to come up the stairs or whatever you have to your front door safely. There's a lot of rotten egresses. Those are things we do a lot of. Want you to be able to walk in your house and turn around and lock it behind you at night, and it is locked. We've seen chairs under doorknobs and bungee cords and all kinds of things. And then want you to be able to go from there to your bedroom without falling through the floor and get into bed and go to sleep without getting dripped on if it's raining. That is essentially what we're trying to do. As Noel said, make it safe and make it where you can age in that home. Been there a long time. If I can go in with a crew and we can do $1,000 floor repair that's rotten or it's a trip hazard before somebody falls and breaks a hip, then that's a $40,000 to $80,000 repair, not for us, for somebody else. So that's what we do.
Any questions for him? If we allotted you guys any money, would y'all be able to keep it in the Mills River location?
Absolutely.
We have received some funds in the past and it specifically goes to Mills River clients.
Okay,
We currently have 11 active clients in Mills River,
okay.
some storm damage
Yeah.
and some in our ongoing home repair program.
11 that are on the wait list.
Okay, on the wait list. Okay.
And it would be helpful to us. I wanted to mention that you all are in the community, you know the constituents and you know people. Please, if you see somebody that needs this help, have them get in touch with us and apply. Our application is very simple, but we don't always know. Sometimes we'll go to fix this house and we happen to see the one next door. We don't go out and knock on doors. We don't do that. People have different attitudes about whether or not they want help, but you all would know better than we would, honestly.
I think it's a point of pride for many people. So like the older fellow that you were just talking about, I
Mhm.
think, wasn't it a family member that finally referred him? He didn't,
Yes.
still didn't ask after years of not having water. So
And he also had no heater, air conditioning, which they come together nowadays. And so we were gonna leverage a different program to put that in. And he said, no, you've done enough for me. Go do something for somebody else.
Oh.
So we put in a couple 20-amp circuits dedicated to his little floor heaters.
Wow.
Because, he was throwing his fuses before, and the problem with the fuse box is you put a penny behind it and keep going.
Mhm.
And so, now we have breakers. Yeah, the fire department, they're gone. So we released the able. I said, well, let me run a couple circuits and you can plug your heaters in. And he said, well, how far can I turn them up? I have to keep pretty low. I said, you can let them rip.
Wow.
He had family help with a power bill. That wasn't an issue.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
I got one question.
Yes.
So the $10,000 that you're requesting, will take care of the 11 Mills River projects or no?
it won't take care of all of them.
Okay.
I mean, you want to answer it?
Well, it certainly will help. And one of the things we do every day is we leverage and combine different funding sources. So we might be able to go in and do like $3,000 worth of work through a small grant that we have here that I can use anywhere in the county. Let's say for a client in Mills River, but they need $4,000 worth of work. Well, $1,000's going to come from that $10,000.
So
We don't use
combining
it for
with
admin or anything. That goes to what we call hard cost. That's materials and paid labor.
So you're comfortable with that number?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Last but certainly not least, our friends from Smart Start Partnership for Children requesting funds for 2 separate programs, $13,000 for their kindergarten transition program, and then $5,000 for the Imagination Library.
My name is Kendall Heck. I am I live down the road at Mills River, and I'm here to talk about Smart Start Partnership for Children. You guys have partnered with us the past couple of years, and we are so grateful for your support. And back to ask for that ongoing support. So you want me to click? Okay, I'll try. Okay, so yeah. The ask is for $5,000 for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, and then $13,000 for the kindergarten transition work. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that. So just a community snapshot. So we have, according to the census online, 7,337 residents in Mills River. Of that, we have about 5% population of children under the age of 5, so 367 kiddos in our care. We have a poverty rate between 2 and 3%. And as you can see, looking at the other numbers, our average income exceeds the county average, but it's important to note that a significant of our households fall within the moderate income bracket. And these families navigate a tricky situation where they don't qualify for that extra care or the extra support, but they still face financial challenges, especially right now in this economy. And so, and it's especially concerning for our early childhood resources and the lack of resources that we have. So extending services like the Dolly Parton Imagination Library and kindergarten transition activities, we address a really critical gap in our resource availability. So our program aims to fill this gap, providing essential services to those who might be overlooked. So what is the Dolly Parton Imagination Library? Most of you might have heard of Dolly Parton Imagination Library, but we love it. We get to partner with Dolly, and it's really fun at all of our events because we have Dolly with us, and everybody loves to come up and take pictures with Dolly. But it is a program that is committed to fostering a love of reading by providing free, high-quality books in the mail for any families birth to 5. And we're going to look a little bit about the direct impact in Mills River here. So we have 299 infant, toddlers, and preschoolers in Mills River that have received books through the Dolly Parton Imagination Library for our 24 and 25 fiscal year. So if we're looking back at that 367, that's roughly 81% of the eligible population in Mills River receiving those books. The funds that are allocated to the Dolly Parton Imagination Library will directly support the cost of providing books to children in Mills River. And the cost about that is like $31.20 per child, $31.20 per child, which is nearly $10,000 invested in Mills River alone, and we're asking for $5,000 of that. So unfortunately, if you might have read in the news, the funding has capped for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library in the state of North Carolina. And many Smart Starts across the state of North Carolina are having to pause this program or create really long wait lists for this program, but we're not doing that at Smart Start Partnership for Children. What we are doing is we are braiding our funding and creating our own pot of money so that we can continue to serve families. And it's with partnerships like you all that we're able to make this possible. So we don't have to like tell people, sorry, we're like capped out, or yeah, we'll get to you, but it could be a year. So that's really important, and we're really grateful for partnerships like you. And then to talk about kindergarten transition work. So roughly 22% of all rising kindergartners enrolled in Henderson County Public Schools attend a Mills River school. So Mills River is a growing community, as we all know and recognize, and with that growth will come more families. So we have about 200 of the 862 Henderson County Public Schools kindergartners in Mills River, which is huge. And that's going to continue to expand. I was just at a kindergarten transition meeting right before this with Mills River Elementary, and they were talking about their kindergarten numbers already. And they were like, yeah, we might need to find some more space to put another kindergarten class, which is a great problem to have, but also comes with challenges. And in this picture right here is just a snapshot from the Mills River Kindergarten Readiness Camp, and all the kids going through the hallways, practicing in an empty building. So these are some of our kindergarten transition activities that we pour into. So we have providing readiness kits, which are kits that are given out at our readiness rallies that are filled with supportive tools that families can go home and practice readiness skills at home. At the rallies, they learn how to use those tools through the teachers and support staff and community partners. So that's one thing that we do. We do community-wide events. We focus on school-based activities, kindergarten readiness camps, to help children and families build routine, confidence, and social emotional skills needed for a successful start to school. And then we do play dates at the park during the summer for families to connect to one another so that the kids can know each other, but it's also really, really important for families to have a space to connect. It's kind of like that awkward going into the cafeteria for the first time, not knowing who you're going to sit with. And I can talk from a parent's perspective that feeling doesn't go away when your kids are in that situation as well. So those opportunities just provide community and connection for families. This is one of our kindergarten readiness. These are pictures from our kindergarten readiness rally this year. We welcomed 129 rising kindergarten families so far from Mills River through our kindergarten readiness rallies this year. Those took place in early February and March. Or sorry, late February and March. That's 68% of current kindergarten enrollment, which is an amazing turnout. I think we had for countywide was close to 500 kids come to these rallies, which is amazing. This is where they get the kindergarten readiness kits.
We also have our Rising Kindergarten Summer Camps. I got to kind of see firsthand, my niece went to the Mills River Kindergarten Readiness Camp, and her mom was on the border because she's very shy and she was very nervous. And I was like, this is exactly why she needs to go. And whatever you need to support her to go, I will drive her, I will bring her back. And it made the biggest difference in her ability to walk into school and be a little bit more confident. The teacher noticed that two of her and a couple other kids were like really close together, and they sat them at the same table. It helps them make their class list. It helps them problem solve different chemistry of children. And it just overall makes the kids feel really confident. It's really overwhelming walking into a school building as a little kindergartner the first day with everybody in the building. So this is just an opportunity in the summer that they get to walk in and have the place to themselves, get to walk down the halls, get to learn rhythms, get to learn routines, and the teachers really get to know them on a better basis before the first day of school. And good for the parents, because that's really hard for them too. So why do these programs matter? So we have 365 infant, toddlers, and preschoolers that reside in Mills River, and only 45, or 12.3, are enrolled in a licensed childcare facility in Mills River. And so this limited access is reflected countywide as well. We only have 20% of children under the age of 5 in Henderson County being served in a licensed childcare facility. And while some families might desire or have the ability to keep their kids at home, we still greatly lack in resource. And so the lack of access to formal early learning experiences means that the majority of young children are entering kindergarten without a consistent exposure to different social settings. It might be the first time that they are in a classroom setting. It might be the first time that they've actually sat in a circle with other kids and had to like listen and follow directions, share toys with another group of kids outside of their family home. And it might be the first time that they're away from their mom, their dad, their caretaker, their grandparent, and that can feel really overwhelming. So when we talk about helping kids get ready for kindergarten, we're talking about giving them a head start on the things that we might assume are happening already, like learning how to make friends or learning how to feel safe in a new environment. And so I just want to point out the 3 license, we have only 3 licensed childcare facilities in Mills River, which was Alethea Academy, but now I believe it's Mills River Christian Academy. It just had a name change and ownership change, I think. And then we have 2 family home licensed homes. So we have a lot of children and not enough resources for sure. So investing in these programs, what does that mean to us? So it means that more children enter kindergarten ready to learn and thrive. More families feel connected to their school community. More families feel supported with the options available for early learning resources and support, and more long-term education success for Mills River and Henderson County's next generation. The gap is particularly profound for families with limited resources and access to high quality education, early childhood education, books, guidance on what early childhood development means, and the support for navigating the transition to kindergarten, which is really big. This grant would be a 2-pronged strategy designed to close the gap for our families with young kiddos in Mills River. So we just want to thank you for helping in this mission to supporting and educating and advocating to build a strong foundation for young children in our community.
All right, thank you. Any questions? You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll take all this into consideration along with the others, and we will make a decision between now and budget cycle time, right?
Yes, sir. So again, it's at council's discretion whether or not to further have this discussion today, or if council so chooses, I can build it into the budget presentation in May, and then we can have further discussion in the workshops in early to mid-May.
I would like to see it in the workshop myself. That's generally where we handle it. And then by then we know if we've got any extra funds available, so on and so forth.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
That's what we shall do.
All right.
I just want to just quickly say before we move on, I just want to thank the nonprofits again for taking the time out to fill out the applications and to go through that process. From the administrative side, I really do appreciate it.
Moving on to our, text amendment, comprehensive plan amendment to communities, center future land use district.
Wait, Mr. Mayor, if I may
Yes.
briefly, there's a blue form in front of you
Okay.
for this section.
Oh, we're going into public hearing. I had to flip my paper over. Somebody put us into public hearing, please.
I make the motion to enter the legislative public hearing for text amendment 25-01 comprehensive plan amendment to the community center future land use district.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Jeff. Any discussion on what we're doing? None. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. We're in public hearing. Does any of the council got any conflict of interest dealing with this matter? No, I don't. No, okay.
Great, thank you, council. So we're here tonight to talk about an amendment to the Making Mills River Comprehensive Plan. And before I go into my full report, I just wanted to note that we did meet statutory requirements for providing public notice. We had an ad in the Hendersonville Lightning on April 9th and April 16th. So this public hearing was properly noticed. You may remember the previous two rezonings. One of them was on Brandy Branch Road. One of them was on Banner Farm Road at the intersection with Schoolhouse. We're in the community center future land use district. And for both these rezonings, staff highlighted that there was an inconsistency in the comprehensive plan about specifically whether industrial uses are encouraged, desirable, acceptable future land uses for that district. So staff brought this to the planning board at their February meeting. They initiated a comp plan amendment to basically modify the community center future land use district to not include industrial uses. Planning board voted 6-1 to recommend approval of that and adopted a statement of consistency. They did recognize in that meeting that there may need to be a future land use map amendment to add an industrial and employment district to that area, and also amend the extent of the community center district. And when I get a few slides ahead to the future land use map, I'll call that out for you. So where's the inconsistency? So on page 30, you can see basically that the community center district calls for a mix of uses, including commercial, residential, industrial, and agricultural. But if you go to the chart on page 31, industrial is listed in the not desirable category. So you can see here, industrials listed as a use that is promoted in the future use district. And then if you go to the chart, it's listed as not desirable. So the reason we want to correct something like this is because staff's a little more jumping out to make an interpretation, because again, the plan is not consistent in terms of its recommendation. And again, we want to avoid that type of inconsistency in future zoning map amendments. So here's the future land use map for the town of Mills River. The community center future land use district is what you see in the red. So it's primarily around our two commercial core areas, Boylston and Haywood, and also north of Schoolhouse Road. You'll see it around the intersection with 280 and Old Haywood. And then there's a little bit around the intersection with Butler Bridge and 280 as well. So zooming in just to get you a better idea of that. So again, the two rezonings where this was called out before were in this area down here. Again, you can see this area for the community center district is quite expansive. It actually goes all the way out to Old Turnpike Road. And so again, when the planning board was discussing this, the idea also came up that we may need to revisit amending the future land use map, because there were also feelings that a community center district calling for this multiple mix of uses may not be appropriate that far out on Old Turnpike. One thing I brought up in the planning board meeting, and I wanted to bring up here again, talking about the need for a future land use map amendment. This is actually public input from the comprehensive plan way back in 2018, 2019. So similar to when we did the UDO exercise in here, folks came in and put dots on a map in terms of what land uses they saw working in different areas of the town. And this would correspond with future land use districts assigned to those areas. Let me go back. So red stands for industrial, blue is for commercial, yellow is residential, and green is farmland or open space. And so one thing I highlighted for the planning board is you can see there's a grouping of industrial dots in the Schoolhouse Road area. And obviously we know some of those parcels down there are also zoned light industrial. But again, in discussion of this with the planning board, we talked about the potential need to, after completing this amendment, amend the future land use map to possibly include an industrial and employment future land use category, the future land use district in that area along Schoolhouse Road, and also look at the extent of that community center district since it goes out so far to Old Turnpike. So again, that's staff's recommendation, and I'll bring that up at the end of this item, is that staff does recommend initiating a future land use map amendment to add that industrial and employment area and look at the extent of the community center district. So really, what's the proposed amendment tonight? We're striking out the word industrial right here from the full-length description of the community center district. So if adopted, basically the district will be to promote a mix of uses to include commercial, residential, and agriculture. The planning board adopted a statement of consistency and recommended approval in a 6-to-1 vote. They found that this amendment was consistent with the comprehensive plan objective 1.1, managing growth to meet the goals of the comp plan and provide for the efficient use of lands to accommodate new development. They found it was consistent with objective 1.3, adoption and updates of the land use vision map, and objective 2.4, successful maintenance of residential areas, existing neighborhoods, and subdivisions. So council's options tonight are to either approve the comp plan amendment as presented, approve with modifications, obviously can table for additional consideration, or deny the amendment, and I'd ask for direction on how to move forward to address that inconsistency. There is a proposed council statement of consistency in your packet. So again, with any zoning amendment, the governing board has to adopt a statement of consistency while approving the amendment, if that's the option council wants to go with, and then also adopting an ordinance that is the official approval document. So this basically mirrors the same consistency statements that the planning board had. It's just drafted for council. That's really all I have.
Questions?
Just for the record, this is not downzoning.
Yeah, so the comprehensive plan is an advisory document. So this is not a regulatory document. These are not zoning districts. This document's used in making zoning decisions. Does not trigger the downzoning law. Should say that directly.
What else you got?
Makes sense to me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay. Anybody else got any discussion? No? We all know why it got brought up with the other two coming in, wanting to put them in there. So to me, it makes perfect sense. It's just an advisory anyway.
Thanks to the planning board. You for working on this.
Okay. With that being said, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, before you do, if I may.
Oh, we got to come out.
There are a couple of items that we must, just address, item starting at number 6 on the blue form in front of you.
Yeah, do we have any, property owners, any applicants, anybody that, wish to present anything pertains to this? Okay. Any other parties present that would, have any questions for staff or anybody about this?
I got a quick, this is looking to add industrial into this,
The opposite, remove it.
to remove,
Remove,
okay.
The planning board felt when looking at it that, again, for your community center, the heart of your community, industrial was not something they felt was desirable there. While also recognizing on some of that area around Schoolhouse Road, we may need to add a new district, the Blue Industrial and Employment District, to possibly accommodate future industrial users just in that section.
Okay.
But that's not part of this amendment. My apologies.
Okay.
Yeah, the map would be a future public hearing that we would have.
So it don't affect anything. It's from here going forward.
Yes,
Okay.
well, yeah, but even at that, it's just an advisory. Yeah, as to what the comprehensive plan suggests we should do.
Okay.
And we agree to that basically tonight if we go this way.
Okay.
Be a guiding tool for the zoning officials to use and the planning board, and then eventually us as council to make decisions on if we allow certain stuff to go in there. So go ahead. So we need to come out of public hearing before we
We have a public
oh yeah, public comment on this. No, okay,
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
okay.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion on why we're closing? Hearing none. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Ah,
Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay,
I make a motion to approve text 25-01 adopt the statement of consistency in ordinance 2025-04 as presented.
all right, I got a motion. How about a second?
I'll second.
Jeff, second. Any discussion on this?
Can we ask staff to continue this now? This is essentially step one. Now to continue to fix this, can we look at making that other sub zone where we've, it's already there, sort of hard to.
That was going to be my ask after the motion.
okay,
What
sorry.
if council was willing, it would be separate from this item, but if you'd like to initiate a text amendment, staff can work on that and take that to the planning board to basically finish the cleanup.
Yeah, while we're cleaning up.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
No, you call. Anything else? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
ah,
Any opposed? Hearing none.
And so if council is so willing, if I may, if it's your pleasure, I'd love, through a motion and a vote to initiate a text amendment to amend the future land use map per the discussion.
Somebody hook us up with that motion.
But the only thing I'd like to add,
Yes.
so light industrial Mills River has always concerned me because it's anything but light industrial. It's more like full on industrial. So when you create this, can we create something that's more consistent with what we would define as light industrial versus?
Yes,
Okay.
we could possibly, we would have to look at the description of the industrial and employment future land use district, but yeah, we can look at that as well.
Okay.
When assigning that district somewhere new, of course.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I make a motion to whatever,
Initiate
the
future.
I lost where I was going with that.
Yeah, so we'd be initiating a future land use map
It was gonna be
amendment to
good,
look at
wasn't
the
it? It was gonna be
extent
good.
of the community center district and possibly the industrial and employment district.
All right, so I got a first. How about a second?
I'll second.
James second. Any discussion on what we did right there? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none.
Thank
got
you.
marching orders. All right. So other business? Anyone got any other business? Hearing none. Entertain a motion to adjourn our regular meeting, and someone make a motion to put us into our business meeting for us.
I make a motion to adjourn our regular meeting and enter into our business meeting.
All right, I got a first. How about a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeff. All in favor?
ah.
Aye. All right.
Can we have a brief break? in
Sure,
between?
sure.
Take a break.
All right, taking a break.
Adjust the thermostat up. I'm cold.
interior. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mayor and Council, I'll briefly jump in while Mr. Malachek is getting set up in front of you here. But just as a reminder, in May of 2023, Council at the time formed the Land Preservation Program, the Land Preservation Steering Committee. And so one of the things that we've been working on is making sure that we can be ready to start launching this program in this fiscal year. And so what we wanted to do is bring before you where we're currently at, provide that information to you and to the residents and to those watching, and then also ask you some questions about what those next steps look like and get some ideas on how to continue progressing forward. So, Malachek.
Thank you. Good to see you all again. So yeah, we know the land preservation program's been out there for a while and really wanted to provide an update and kind of kick off the process for moving forward and formally launching this. So this is going to be a lot of background. I'm sure a lot of you know this already, but just wanted to cover how we got to where we are. So the town's had discussions about preservation for years, but it really hit the high point when we received the ARPA funds, part of the COVID pandemic federal monies after 2022. And that's when council made the decision to dedicate some of those funds. I believe it was 500,000 towards a land preservation initiative, and that was going to be the seed money for that initiative. Around that time, I was working with former town manager Cobb, looking at general statutes. So the general statutes don't allow a municipality to actually receive funds through the state's agricultural preservation grant program to receive those monies to buy a conservation easement and hold that easement. Now, we do have the authority to purchase land and purchase easements, and those easements can be for conservation purposes, but we're missing out on the largest pots of money. And so if we went that route, that would exhaust that funding relatively quickly because we wouldn't be leveraging other funds. So it was at the February 23 meeting with Resolution 2302. Basically, council adopted that resolution supporting farmland preservation and also asking our General Assembly representatives to introduce a bill that would allow municipalities to participate in the state agricultural preservation trust fund grant program and possibly hold those conservation easements. Unfortunately, that didn't move forward. So at the March meeting, former council member Austin requested a discussion on actually establishing a town program and forming a land preservation steering committee, basically guide the development of the program, what the scoring criteria would look like, et cetera. That committee was formed and those members were appointed in end of April 23. Steering committee met multiple times throughout 2023, met with potential partners in the program, experts in the field, and then made a recommendation to council about how this program should look, what the guidelines and policies should be. You do have a printout of that, I believe, that was given to you. And so council formally established the land preservation program, again, on paper, December 14th of 2023 through resolution 2319, and then adopted those guidelines that were created and recommended for approval by the steering committee. And then it was not until March of 24 when council adopted the charter and rules of procedure for the actual new advisory board, the Land Preservation Committee. Again, this is not the steering committee that formed the program. This is the standing committee moving forward that will make recommendations to council about potential applicants and funding for the program. Obviously, after that, we had a change in leadership and the town manager left his position. And so that caused delays to the rollout of the program. And then obviously the hurricane hit and other things happened. So the guidelines as they were adopted by council basically says the town will work in partnership, obviously with voluntary participants, landowners, and a conservancy nonprofit, because the general statutes say that counties can participate in this program and hold conservation easements through the state trust fund money. But the other party that can do that is conservation nonprofits. And so Conserving Carolina was just one example. They came out here and actually spoke to us about how that process would work, how the town and a nonprofit would be involved throughout the application process. So again, the town would be a smaller funding partner or kind of like a provide gap funding for those they're expected costs, but costs that are not covered by the state grant program, the trust fund program. Those usually are surveys, appraisals. I believe at least 2 appraisals need to be done for the property, because again, that value of the conservation easement is very carefully calculated for the funding secured through the feds or through the state. Attorneys' fees, property inspections, etc. So that's the role the town would play is doing that gap funding. The guideline state applications can be accepted throughout the calendar year, but would be considered and sent to council with recommendations annually in concert with the annual budget process. So the idea would be applications could be accepted year round. The committee would potentially meet, going into late fall, winter, and then come springtime, if there are applications, there would be a recommendation to council about potential funding opportunities for someone that may want to participate in the program. So what do the guidelines say? So right now, the guidelines state the highest priority is to preserve farmland, especially active farmland being actively farmed, and especially those parcels that are at high risk for development. So maybe they're near public utilities, maybe they're near a large road, etc. The pieces of land developers are really looking at to convert away from agriculture. But any land is eligible for consideration. So that's why it's called the land preservation program. So it could be forested areas, steep slopes, wetlands, etc. This is just a snapshot of the scoring sheet in the guidelines. So you can see existing land use at the top is taken into consideration. So if you're currently in ag production, there's a higher score. Previously in ag production has a slightly lower score, and then some of the natural lands have lower point scores than that. And then really the focus was around development pressure, because again, North Carolina, I believe this is a couple-year-old statistic, but is #2 in the country for loss of farmland. And Mills River and Henderson County are not immune to that. So again, if a property is near a large road, so 280, 191, Banner Farm, etc., if they're near utilities, you can see public sewer has a very high point value assigned to it, because again, that's where developers are looking to put those multifamily denser developments, because you have to have public sewer to connect. So this scoring system put together by that steering committee and adopted by council basically sets the priorities for how potential projects would be scored and recommendations made to council. So what are the next steps? So staff are in the process of drafting all the public facing documents we have to put together to formally push the program out and launch it. So an application, a frequently asked questions guide. This is an example of one that Buncombe County has. Buncombe County and Haywood County participate in this program and have been very successful. So again, staff's developing that behind the scenes. And then again, we'll do a push out of this when the time comes. So a new page on the town website under the planning and zoning page. And again, when launch comes, we can talk about media strategy for Facebook posts to again, get the word out. So what do we need next? So again, the committee was formed on paper, but we don't have no members were ever appointed to it. So that's really the next thing I want to put before council for consideration, is how to make appointments to this new advisory board, the Land Preservation Committee. So the charter and rules of procedure were already adopted, and it states it's a 5-member committee of 2-year terms, and members can be reappointed at any time. The terms don't have to be staggered. It doesn't talk about that. And then there is a specific makeup. So 1 member is from the planning board, 1 member from the ag advisory board, 1 member from Parks and Rec advisory board, a town council member, and then an at-large resident in the community, again, specifically a resident within the town limits. And then the time commitment is a little less than some of our other advisory boards. It would be meeting quarterly, first Tuesday of the month at town hall, or as needed based on, if applications are coming in. So really, here's a draft schedule I just threw out. So again, ideally this spring, we get the Land Preservation Committee appointed. In summer, we can do the launch of all the public facing materials, applications, website, etc. And then in summer, we would probably hold the first meeting of the committee, get everyone oriented with each other, in the program. And then obviously, once the program's launched, we would be open for applications. So the target is that we want to be able to accept applications 2025, so council can consider any potential applications next budget cycle. And that's really the end. The action, there's no formal action tonight. It's really a discussion about how council wants to make appointments to this, excuse me, not steering committee, new advisory board. When the steering committee was appointed, again, just a temporary committee, but that put all this together. At that time, council had asked the individual boards to maybe poll themselves, see who would maybe be interested, and report back to council. And again, that's not a suggestion, just something that was done before for consideration.
And if I may just quickly interject as well, so, and we do have a couple models that we've used in the past, similar to, we've also polled individual boards, seen who was interested in it, brought that before you all for consideration and for a list for that. We can follow any model that you all feel comfortable with. The other question is how you would like to receive requests for the at-large member of the community. That area is something that, you know, we figured would be helpful to have on the front end and how you feel comfortable to gather that, and then we would make sure to talk about the administrative work of that.
State, wall background.
So do you want to do that through like a formal application process, or just like the other boards? And maybe some questions that are tailored more towards.
Yeah, I mean, the only restriction for the at-large members, they do need to be a town resident. So, I mean, I would defer to the clerk because I'm usually not involved in that process, but I know we have applications on file for other advisory boards. And I know usually we would advertise those at advisory board vacancies.
So we could just advertise for an at-large.
We could advertise for it, and again, to that point, have an application type process that may, again, based off of what council may be looking at, to gather information about their experience and matters related to this, so that you can have that in front of you as a part of the review process.
And I'm comfortable with polling the other
Mhm.
boards. I think that's fine. Yeah.
So yeah, but like the planning board's meeting in a week and a half. So at the next meeting, I could take this to them and see who's interested from that board. And then we could bring that back to y'all.
Close in on that one particular person. It would just speed the process up, I feel. Help us out, or, import any one person, because they know each other better than we do. They might actually know who would be better fit for it than we would.
When did it go from farmland preservation, land preservation?
I don't have the charter on the screen, but when,
So it don't have to be just farmland.
correct. No,
I always thought it was farmland, but it says here it's land.
now farmland, again, scores much higher,
Yeah.
as again, that's the priority of the town, especially active farmland. You get more points that way. But it, like if there were a year where there were no farmland applications, but maybe someone had, I'm just making this up, 5 acres of steep slope on Forge Mountain, that would be an application that could be considered that year. They wanted to prioritize farmland in the steering committee, but not cut out everything else.
One.
Really a prime example of that would be right across the double. Where that all was. And then, you know, they got purchased also with that solid farm, I think, that realized it. Probably whenever they pulled out basic work, so they ended up. Cheap guy. Out that work, you know, all of that. Anybody have any more questions? If we need to make sure the staff that which way we headed with this.
I think we've got good direction.
Okay.
We do. Yeah, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. As a reminder, during the visioning exercise, we did talk about the land preservation program, the $500,000 that council has allocated towards that, and your willingness at that time to continue with that $500,000 in the future. So we will have a conversation, obviously as a part of the budgetary process, but you'll be seeing that again going forward in the next few weeks.
This council, we are looking to add money into that process yearly threat hand. Okay, so
I think that's the way you make it sustain.
So from my notes, and again, I had to go back and look, the conversation that we had coming out of the visioning exercise was because we have yet to get an application in to run that out, that the 500,000 would move. And then once we started to see, or once you all started to see the applicants and the funds and the amount that's necessary, would be able to make adjustments at that point in future budgets. So that.
I'm good with it because I feel like if we need to, we can move money from, if somebody wipes out the 500,000 in the first 3 months, we can move money from reserves. I would.
So is it my understanding that model that I just mentioned is still the correct model, at least as of right now? Obviously, it's your budget. We can amend it at any point.
Right. So future agenda items, has anybody got anything in to put out there?
I got one. So just with all the bills that are coming forward in the General Assembly and how they're affecting land use moving forward, I know there's a couple of them that are very concerning for us. So what I'm concerned about is that if they're on the table to be voted on, and if they get approved, then everybody can run here and pull a permit on them real quick. So I'm concerned if maybe we need to play a little defense and look at creating how we want those to look and be ready to move if it does get passed, so that somebody's not running out here pulling permits and we have no control or say so over it because of state law gets passed. So maybe if we had like some information about the ones that are really concerning as far as land use coming forward, where we could look at them and maybe decide if we need to do something preventive before that gets implemented. Or at least be ready to go if it does get implemented. Yeah, the gold gutter.
Yeah.
Well, you think bills are gonna possibly go to crossover in the May, possibly, when is the possession voted?
So the crossover first, I believe it's in mid to late May. I have to go back and confirm the exact date on that. Yeah, we're still monitoring it. I mean, for lack of a better term, when it comes to what we're looking for, the session ends when the session ends. So I have no idea of exactly how long this may look, how much time they may have, but I mean, going into the summer, I would suspect. But I don't suspect it to go much further into the summer, again, unless something changes. So again, that's just my knowledge as of right now. That's based off of just what I've seen. Don't hold me to that. So that's kind of where we're at with it. So am I understanding, if I may, just both a bill digest of what may be coming, but then also a conversation about what potential updates for consideration that you all may want to consider before that hits? So like that May, June, July timeline, bring some these items to you all. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I was looking for. And maybe the discussions, just to educate us and then the discussion we can have of where we feel we need to go with it.
Understood. Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is that as he head nods? That's one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Adjourn our business.
And make a motion to adjourn a business meeting.
I second.